is a legal disturbance.
Cameras on.
It's the only really outstanding comment, and that needs to be done before it gets recorded, so that should just become a condition.
That's easy.
Yes, I thought so. And it's in the letter.
Yeah.
There is one waiver that goes along with that.
Land scale. Yes, is on the agenda.
You're on.
You're good?
Good,
Mm-hmm.
we're starting early.
3:30.
Okay.
It's on.
Oh, well, look at that clock.
Don't try that.
Why did I look at the clock? Okay, here we are, August 7th, 3:30, with, start out with, we have a celebrity in our midst, former mayor of White Hills, Pichini, right there back. Yep, how are you? Okay, roll call.
Ron Stanko,
Here.
Mike Hart,
Here.
Thomas McKeon,
Here.
Eric Oxenchuck,
Here.
Rick Weinhofer,
Here.
Jen Barnett, and Scott Miller.
Here. Wow, good stuff. Okay, public comment. Going once, twice. Okay. Number 4. Moving quickly. 24 Upland Road, Pichini McGregor Annexation Subdivision Sketch Plan of Record. Who wants to be first?
Oh, if I have to.
John Huff?
It'll only take a minute.
Yes.
Basically, this is an annexation subdivision. The tract, if I may just walk up to the screen and I'll point real quick, consisted of 3 different lots. The McGregors own the northernmost lot, and you'll have to remember, for the most part, Upland was the only street that existed when the original subdivision plan went through. Noble Street did not exist at this time. There were 3 lots, and you can almost see the division between the lots. And what had happened was, when they came through and took Noble Street to make the connection between Upland and over farther west to the original Noble Street, they severed an existing lot, creating a remnant or an annexation parcel A, what would be on the north side of now Noble Street, and annexation parcel B, which would be the remnant on the south side of Noble. So this simple subdivision just annexes A to the northern property owner, the McGregors. B, therefore, goes to Guido Pichini and his wife, as simple, make the existing lots larger. So that's the gist of the original subdivision before you. And I know we do have a McCarthy, hi Craig.
Hi.
We do have a McCarthy review letter on this, to which the only thing that I think I need before I request final plan approval would be plan scale waiver. Plan scale requires that all subdivisions be 50 scale. We drew it at a larger 30 scale to view it better. So I would respectfully request a waiver of section 402.1 plan scale.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So,
Thank you. And based on the McCarthy July 21st review letter, there are now no outstanding items, and I will respectfully request final plan approval.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you all very much.
Set a world record there.
That was good. Might have been a minute, it was close.
It's too bad there's another aspect to this meeting that short with something.
I understand.
in the meeting.
But thank you for your time.
There is one outstanding.
Yeah, you might want.
Oh, did you want to point something?
Yeah, we went to see the legal descriptions for,
That's a general comment, has nothing to do with this board. Has nothing to do with this board. It's no sections that you're quoting. We're in the process of preparing them and we'll give them to you, but that can't be a condition under general comment.
Okay.
So you're not quoting a section of the saldo or the zoning law. So, I understand that you want them, and I'll get them to you when they're prepared.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna comply, even though
Absolutely.
you. Right.
You're gonna get them eventually.
So, we'll look forward to review.
Thank you, sir.
I will get these signed tomorrow after council, first because he's recommendation.
You'll probably have a description somewhere to that.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you, Steve.
Take care. Hmm?
Legal descriptions are easy.
Yeah, you can try and, I do, yes, kind of miss them. I just told him I missed doing legal descriptions.
Yes.
I do, some days.
Yes, Steve said you were the best at it.
I taught myself how to do them from his transcriptions.
Yes. So,
Fence extending,
yes,
Skill.
yes.
just do legal descriptions.
There's always gonna be a need for it.
Well, now AI can certainly do it pretty quickly.
What's an arc? Tangent, a radius, I used to hate those.
Okay, so it's a good thing we waited a month or so, because we could whittle down 152 items to about 6. So, should we get started on the Folino apartment building final land development plan?
Good afternoon, everyone. Rob Hain with Burke Surveying and Engineering. Yes, it's been a month or two since we've been here. The updated plans were submitted. We addressed the large majority of the comments from previous reviews, but we still have a few left to address on various items through zoning, stormwater, and saldo. But you know, we have these updates here for your review today. If there's any specific questions that you guys want to start off with, or your engineer wants to start off with, you can address those. Otherwise, I can go over some of the points that I know were of concern in previous reviews. One primarily was the loading area. There was concerns about how people were going to move in and out of the building. Also, the dumpster locations where we had that shown previously was not favorable. The updated plan shows on the north side of the building a loading area adjacent to the entrance to the underground parking level with the dumpster pad at the end of that. So essentially, moving trucks could pull in on that side of the building. We restructured the internal footprint of the building, and the service elevator is now just inside there on the north side. So essentially, tenants can pull in the moving truck, unload, get right into the service elevator and go right up to the floor where their apartment is. So the dumpster location will make things easier as well, in the fact that the trash can get easily out to the dumpster without having to cross the access driveway or anything like that. Plus,
I'm sorry, do you have an updated, truck turning movement plan?
that's
Show them.
included as part of this.
Okay.
Really, there wasn't much change to the layout from the previous one that you guys saw. I mean, essentially the driveway is still the same. We just pushed it a little further away from the north side of the building to allow that extra space for the loading area and dumpsters in that area. We did add an additional turning template to show the fire truck coming out onto the south side of the building to make sure that there wasn't any concerns there. The fire chief has already reviewed this, the layout, and has no issues. We just need to work through the final details of where the fire department connection to the building is going to be and the new hydrant location on the site. which we hope to have resolved in the next 2 weeks. Other than that, the plans that were submitted did not address all of the comments on stormwater and lighting, but we have recently had some updated plans that our consultants put together. If the planning commission would like to look at those, I have those available. But again, I'm here to address mostly your questions and comments that you have on the plan before you.
Do you want them to see the view?
That's probably a really good idea, yes. Here's a new rendering that was put up. Again, I know one of the other main concerns was what this project's gonna look like from Greenwich Street. So this is at the corner, looking up at the northeast corner of the building. You can see the retaining wall on the left, that'll be along the parking lot. You can kind of see the other retaining wall on the upslope side of the parking lot behind that, and then the building in the rear. The new sidewalk along Greenwich Street is omitted from this view, but that'll be taken care of in future updates.
I love the transformer.
It makes a very prominent, takes a very prominent role in this view. Not entirely sure why that takes such a prominent view,
Cause it's there,
but
probably.
because it's
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I know, but.
I mean, there is a pole there, so,
So where should a retaining wall be, right? Just.
It's right there, I mean, it's like,
Yeah. It's like,
yeah, sort of.
it's like what you're selling.
Yes.
compared to everything else we're doing, the utility pole is going to look rather hideous. But,
Does
Right.
anyway.
it already does, right? There's not a whole lot we can do about it.
We're gonna go all in front of that.
We could bury it. Why?
Is that the only view you have?
That's the only updated view that we have. The original views that we had, we're looking at it from Van Reed Road.
Okay.
But we knew the architect designer only had time to do one real view, and this is where I know most of the concern was generated from. The residents that live on the other side of Greenwich Street and the planning commission members were concerned just again, how is this gonna look from that side of the development?
Can't get a cell phone tower on top of the transformer to make it really.
I mean, we
To
could.
make it really ugly, right?
I mean,
That's right.
we can hang a big top 10 on it too, but I think, like I said, this gives a fair perspective of what you're gonna be seeing looking at it from Greenwich. I don't know how you wanna do this, Craig, do you wanna go through any comments from your letter, or?
I mean, I don't have any, I don't really have any planning issues so much. Like you said, there's a couple stormwater things that need to be taken care of. I can't recall, are you showing the PennDOT safe site distances on all the driveway entrances?
So yes, if you look at the layout view, it shows site distance, the required and
The
existing.
reason I ask is because I drove by there on the way here, and I'm looking at that driveway coming up at a 10% onto Van Reed,
Right.
and I'm thinking, wow, there's a crest right there. I don't, you know what I mean? It may have been deceptive on my, because I was in my pickup truck coming the opposite way.
No, I understand.
Okay, but boy, when I looked at that, I thought, I'm not sure about site distance there.
Yeah, the main, honestly, believe it or not, the main one that was a concern when we were measuring was the one out to Greenwich, but that's mostly just because of the existing vegetation that's there now.
Yeah.
Once that's cleared away, you'll be able to see all the way down to Park Road.
Okay.
But yeah, that stuff's all there. I know there was a comment in Greg's letter regarding site distance, and I'm not sure what,
Say it again?
Greg's letter.
Oh, yeah, Greg's letter, yeah.
I'm not sure if there was something that he was missing. I don't know if you talked to him about that at all.
No, I did not.
Because I mean, they were present on the plan, so I guess I'll just follow
Okay.
up with him to see if
Okay.
he's got any.
Yeah, I would follow up with Greg on that. No, I don't have anything, I mean, the one thing I noticed in that rendering, that you did submit a supplemental grading plan that was not included in the set when you submitted that. An updated not grading plan, landscaping plan.
Correct, so.
Okay, and if I recall correctly, well, I have it right here actually, and it really softens up that
Oh,
wall
absolutely.
from compared to what we just saw in that rendering. This additional landscaping is going to really soften up that wall quite a bit, in case you had any concern about that.
Is there any chance you could pull that up?
That's what I'm getting to.
be the
Yeah,
LP,
correct. Bring up
LP
something.
one up in the middle there. Down,
Yeah.
down, yeah. Alright, so, right. Compared to the previous plan, you can see, if you look along the top of the plan, you can see all the circles and symbols and squiggles. I mean, essentially that shows, a continuous planting of different various shrubs and trees, whether they be evergreens or deciduous, a nice mixture to show that there's gonna be vegetation all along that side. Up until you get to the driveway where clear sight's required. But like, Craig said, the view of that wall that you even see in the picture of the rendering is gonna be even less so, cause it's really gonna just be obscured by a lot of vegetation for the majority of the year.
The one new comment that I had has to do with guide rail. I'm looking at the height of these walls,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, phew, we need some guide rail along the driveways and, the parking spaces that dead end into the wall.
So we're gonna look at that, I was actually just talking with Mr. Folino about that. Likely we're probably looking more in the direction of just extending the walls up higher to keep a more pleasing aesthetic and obviously structurally it'll be better, than doing the.
They are poured concrete, right? It's just stamped on the outside to give you
That's the idea at this time, but again, the final details on that haven't been worked out.
Right.
We'll work through that before, the next submission to narrow down exactly what that's gonna look like for the top of the walls and how it's gonna affect for traffic safety and such. Other thing with traffic safety, one of the, review comments, the layout plan that we have provides stop signs at all the entrances onto public streets. We're proposing painted stop bars to be painted on the driveway surfaces at all the internal driveway intersections, which we feel should be adequate. TPD was suggesting that stop signs are needed at all the internal driveways. So I guess I'm looking for some feedback from the planning commission, if you guys have any thoughts on that. It seems like a little bit of overkill for a residential development such as this.
Well, I think there was one place that they were mainly concerned about is that three-way intersection where it comes out here, do you have a plan?
Yeah.
It would be the northeast, actually it'd be the northwest intersection, down along the right side of the building and then coming out of the parking lot and into the access to the, level 1 underground parking. So it'd be almost in the middle of the plan there.
Sorry.
That's okay. To the upper right-hand corner of the building, that intersection right there. They're not proposing any stop signs there, and I know,
So you're talking about here?
no,
Or
there, that was where he was concerned. And because of the heavy traffic activity in that area, that's where his main concern was. But again, probably better off if he clarifies his own letter, but.
No, I got you. Well, I mean, he essentially was asking for stop signs at all the traffic, all the intersections of driveways. With the stop bars as, again, like I said, I feel like it might be overkill, just to, in my opinion, but again, I'm looking for some.
We're not proposing anything at the intersection, the first intersection coming in, right?
So-
You don't have any stop bars or signs.
That was an omission in the plan. There should be
Okay.
stop bars, on the approaching driveway from the south and on the approaching driveway from the north. If you want them on the approaching driveway from the east, we could put that there as well. But, again,
Do you have one coming out from the front of the building to the driveway? You have a crosswalk there.
I think where the crosswalks are will be.
Yeah, there's a crosswalk there.
yeah,
Do we have any ordinance requirements that say they have to be PennDOT style signage, or can it be, since it's private, can they be different than your typical stop sign?
It's not in the subdivision and land development ordinance, it wouldn't be elsewhere. I mean, my personal recommendation and preference would be to see both for the simple fact of paint and fade.
But what I'm saying is, if you're thinking of aesthetics, you could do something, some smaller internal signage.
I mean, they're not ordained signs, so you know, if it's more aesthetically pleasing to have something smaller, I guess that would be okay.
Yeah, my
I mean,
concern
you know,
is-
it's not like we're going to be responsible for maintaining and policing those stop signs.
Right, my concern is you're gonna have deliveries in the front of the building with people who may not be familiar with it, and you have a crosswalk coming out of that drive aisle. Main drive, I'll call it.
Right, there will have to be stop bars at every pedestrian crossing. You can't really see it because the crosswalk's right at the edge of the building. The stop bar will be technically under the edge of the building at the entrance there. But we can make sure that there's a notation on this traffic control plan to show that, you know, those provisions would be provided.
Michelle, to your point about fading paint, is it possible to require that it be repainted every 2 or 3 years or?
Yeah, but then you're enforcing that and who's
Well, I
remembering?
understand that, but if that addresses your concern,
I just think it's much easier to put the stop sign in.
Yeah, I would defer to what Greg is requesting, in terms of safety, especially for the pedestrians.
But I'm okay with a smaller,
Yeah, it would be fine.
Smaller sign.
Okay.
I think pedestrians would be better able to see something big in the road that says stop than a small sign.
I'm more worried about the drivers and the pedestrians.
Right, but I don't know that the drivers are gonna make it.
it's not much. It's just a reminder. It's there. This is like a shop thing. This is dust.
We just really have one left, yeah, but, before we get off on it, if that, I appreciate the feedback on the signs and we'll discuss that and come back with something to address it. One of the other comments was asking for clear sight triangles provided at all the internal intersections. Is there a dimension for internal private driveway clear sight triangles?
I don't think I asked for them inside
Oh, I think that was
traffic planning.
traffic planning, so I guess I'll. have to
Yeah,
follow up.
I don't generally ask for that. I'll ask for it where the street connects to
There
the
should be something in the ordinance.
sidewalk, I mean, the
It
driveway.
doesn't reference any section of the ordinance at all, because,
Okay.
I mean, generally, I think the ordinance just specifies intersections with public streets, not necessarily internal driveway intersections.
Did you look at the driveway section?
I did not specifically.
Okay, that might be very pointed.
But I will check that.
That's where it's kind of hidden, I think, in the,
Yeah, I was, at this point, I was just looking at his review letter
Yeah.
and didn't see a reference to it.
In number 2 in his letter there discusses site distance and it says internal, and I guess you said that you may have missed it, but it seems like it was done at the external access points and not internal. So I don't know that he's necessarily looking for a site triangle, but just verifying that site distance can be obtained for any of those internal driveways. I don't know that you would have to depict a site triangle, but as long as they come to the stop sign and they can see
And they can
an adequate
Yeah.
city
Yeah, Jim.
for safe stopping site distance, and you could probably use a speed of less than 25 for that calculation.
And again, I recommend you talk to Greg about his letter because he and I did discuss some of these things briefly, but I think his main concern is the stop signs. Okay, and I think the site triangles comment comes mostly from not providing stop signs. Okay, I
I
think,
got you.
okay, I think that's how, but you know,
If it's a stopped intersection.
If it's
much
an
less
always
concern.
stop, you wouldn't necessarily have to have the site distance.
Right, it's less of a concern for sight distance as you're approaching the intersection if you're gonna stop anyways.
Right.
I understand. Okay. Right, so, the waiver letter submitted has 3 waivers, which, I understand from Jim, the plan scale and preliminary plan waivers were approved at the June meeting for the council. So we're looking at just the, waiver number 3, which is minimum velocity and storm sewers. So there's a minimum velocity requirement for storm sewers, ideally to prevent backup and clogging, but, the few storm sewer runs that we have that we're requesting relief for is the outliers. So like the entrance onto Greenwich Street, which is lower in elevation, we're still putting 2 catch basins in down near the end of that driveway to capture as much as we can of the runoff from the driveway before it goes into Greenwich Street and put it back into the stormwater management facility on site. Due to the slope of the pipe to keep that continuous run going down, we're not meeting that minimum velocity in those runs of storm sewer. And also on the other end of the site, where the driveway to Van Reed is on the east side, same thing there with just the pipe that goes across the driveway. It's low slope there, just going from one end to the next, low drainage area. And then the discharge from the storm sewer into the seepage bed itself. We want to maintain a low velocity going into an underground stormwater facility to prevent scouring, erosion, or any sort of other disturbance that might happen in that facility. So, I don't know, Craig, did you have any concerns about the waiver?
No, actually, you know, I would have a concern about that waiver if it was going to be maintained by the borough.
Okay.
But you guys, if it has to be cleaned out 2 or 3 times a year, that's, you know, that would be your concern, okay?
And as part of water quality for on-site stormwater improvements, there's a sump that's provided, basically a low area in each box to allow sediment to build up. Again, the idea is we don't want to wash all that sediment down through into the seepage bed. We want to have it captured periodically by the storm sewer collection system so it can be cleaned out before it clogs up the underground stormwater facility.
Are the inlets of the driveways for spread issues that you're seeing?
It's for, again, it's just basically to capture all of the, as much as possible, the runoff from impervious coverage and direct it into that on-site facility, so you don't have water running out into the street.
The improvements agreement will reference that issue specifically.
It should, I mean, when it's drafted, language can put in.
Well, I mean, we can add something. I mean, typically, the improvements agreement requires them to comply with the plan. So, putting on plan notes that will also address that. Another way to reference it.
We could also make sure in the operation and maintenance agreement for stormwater that there's a requirement that it be cleaned out.
There's generally regular inspection requirements in almost every O&M agreement
Yeah.
that accounts for that.
And that's what the escrow is for, so.
Okay.
It's gonna be, you know, if not in the borough's standard agreement, it's definitely in NVDS, which will have for this also.
But they could make a condition of that waiver that they increase the frequency, right?
Well, that's what I was
Cool.
thinking. The standard O&M agreement, the inspections are not that frequent. So if this particular installation should have a more frequent inspection, that's what we would need to change in terms of an additional plan note and language in the agreement. Well, that's, I'm not sure if it's
Usually the standard O&M is 1 annual inspection.
Now,
Yeah.
saying more
Yeah.
gets us too far.
But with
Or
the,
are we asking for 2? Or once every 6 months, what are we asking for? I think we need to be specific.
I'm not sure what we need.
with the NPDS, updated NPDS O&M for post-construction stormwater, it's every rainfall event exceeding 1 inch,
Wow.
which is like every rainfall event.
Are they really coming out and doing that?
That's always supposed to be.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
we're working on a project in Morgantown, and they're checking.
Wow. They must have beefed up their staff.
Yeah.
oh, is the conservation district coming out? No, they're not coming out, but they hold, the property owner and permit holder to that standard, to basically say,
You're doing it.
you can't claim that
Reports.
it's been a year or whatever, that you didn't, you know, that you did your due diligence. If there's a problem ever, you're accountable, you have to do that. Because you're supposed to be keeping regular tabs on it all the time.
So, thank you for being a responsible total person, I guess.
Where are you with your NPDS permit, conservation district?
So we had done a pre-application meeting and the initial submission went in, I believe this morning, so.
Okay.
We got some time.
Okay, gotcha.
I'll get you that form tomorrow.
The compliance letter?
The MPDS,
Oh, the,
yeah, the municipal form,
oh, the Act 14?
yeah,
Okay,
I'll get that to you tomorrow.
cool.
Anyone inclined to make a motion regarding the waiver request?
I'll make the motion.
Do you want to put any type of language in the motion to include more frequent inspection?
Do we have, the language that was talked about, that rainfall one? Is that specific to another area and not?
Well, I mean, that's part of your MPDES.
It's part of the, I fortunately do not have that with me right now, so if you guys wanna have something else.
I'm a little bit concerned about, arbitrary is not quite the right word, but picking a number, and I'm not sure what that might be based on. No,
Well, I don't want the borough to promise to do inspections after every 1 inch, and that's
A lot.
reasonable.
Why did we have to do,
Huh?
why did we have to do this?
This would be in our agreement.
Yeah, the O&M agreement includes an inspection requirement for the municipality to review the functioning of the facilities on a periodic basis, which I guess is 1 year.
So we can't say that they'll arrange for an inspection of a sentence?
Well, what is your reporting process with the MPDES? Is there some communication, or is it just something you're supposed to do and you don't have to report that you actually did?
So there's a standard form that the operator is supposed to keep on site and keep a log, and there's no requirement to submit or review it, because again, that would require more state expense for them to review said logs and check up on such things. Again, this is all just geared towards making the property owner, operator ultimately responsible and giving them no way to wiggle out if anything goes wrong. I mean, they know it's their responsibility to maintain and keep the system functioning the way it's supposed to. As the borough doesn't want to accept responsibility for inspections and maintenance on it, most of these agreements are all about forcing that liability onto the property owner. That way, if they don't do it, they're going to be held, responsible.
Well, we could include a condition that upon request by the borough, the developer will provide copies of their log. I mean, that's a possibility. It's sort of not a tremendously high hurdle, but it would give us access to additional information about their performance of their inspection process.
But that doesn't address the issue of requiring more frequent and how much more frequent. They were looking for some.
Again, their MPDES permit requires them to do frequent inspections. Question, at least one question is, should the borough do more frequent inspections? And I'm not sure if we want to assume that burden.
Jenna, to clarify, if that language is added to the O&M agreement, I believe it also gives the borough the right to go back to the owner at any point in time and say, I want to see copies of your inspection records, and if they can't turn them over, they're in violation of the agreement, and then there's other recourse we have to make sure that they do comply. And it saves us from having to go out and do the more frequent inspection.
Well, I don't want us to have to do it, I'm trying to find a workaround. And I did, so inspectors, one suggestion was, they have somebody else do it, send us the reports. That suggestion was not well received, just looking for something else. But going to the point of somebody suggested more frequently, and we haven't addressed that issue. We're simply saying when it's done, we have to break the reports, well, that doesn't address the issue of increasing the frequency.
Well, if they're doing a report after every one inch rainfall event,
You could
But we need
reference,
to add that language,
yeah,
don't we?
you could reference as a condition of the waiver that
Back to your point.
Yeah.
that stormwater inspections we completed in accordance with DEP, post-construction stormwater management inspection.
I wanna reference that,
Yeah.
that'd be a good way to do it.
Can we work that in? And then, or, Michelle, do you think we already have access to it? Or would we need to, add that?
Well, it's not our permit, so, I mean, I think we would have better access if we had a requirement that they share, or that they make it available to us at our meetings. The report that they're, or the record that they're required to maintain for their NPDES permit.
And this would only come up if there was some sort of continuous problem.
Well, I mean, we would have the option, if this were a condition, that they make that report available to us, or that log available to us, that we could check it even if it's not a problem. But I agree on a practical level, you know, if there is a problem, we're more likely to inquire as to whether or not they've been documenting regular maintenance.
Okay, so, access them, and then,
Well,
That's
they would-
standard.
But they would be, we could require them to promise to us that they will, they already have this obligation, in the standard O&M agreement that we require them to enter into. They have to do everything that is required by their plan, including the maintenance notes that are part of the plan. So, I'm guessing that this maintenance schedule that the NPDES plan requires would be part of the plan that is submitted to the borough for stormwater management. Or is there some difference between the maintenance notes that we get and the maintenance notes that are required for the NPDES?
He's required to record the O&M as part of the NPDES.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is I don't know that we need to make them specifically promise to us that they're going to follow their NPDES permit requirements, because I think they're already required to do that. And they are, in their operations and maintenance agreement with the borough, they are promising us that they will comply with their stormwater management plan, which will include that requirement.
do you think we would need to, have, require access upon request?
Yeah, that's the piece of this that I don't know that we automatically have without adding it as a condition to the granting of the waiver.
But you don't think we need to increase the frequency?
Sounds like it's pretty frequent already.
Well, their NPDES plan requires them to do this frequent maintenance.
26 once a year.
No,
Well,
that's our
that's-
agreement.
That, see, what I don't wanna do is to increase the borough's obligation. Okay,
That's
One is
part of the NPDES. Yeah, that's the conservation district and the EV. So, got two layers here, I think. I think we're pretty well protected. The only question is adding that language about upon request.
So the motion is to grant the waiver, with the, added ability to access upon, the information upon request.
their log for their routine maintenance, yes.
Make that motion.
So what we're doing now, this motion is for this specific issue, the NPDES and, right,
Number 3.
Number 3, the velocity, minimum velocity. We're agreeing to that waiver.
this is the one here that we just did,
We're doing that now.
Yes, we'll
We'll
do it.
that later.
so
So we're
we're
granting that,
meeting then.
we're gonna recommend granting that waiver,
Okay.
subject to the conditions that we're proposing on it.
All right, so we have a motion, a second, any discussion on the motion? Does somebody wanna read back what this motion says, but don't read this, because it has nothing to do with what we just did?
Well, you're granting a waiver from section 310 subsection C.6, minimum velocity in storm sewers, subject to the condition that as part of the operations and maintenance agreement with the borough, language will be added notifying the applicant/property owner they must provide their reports and inspections as requested to the borough under their NPDES permit.
Wonderful.
not to confuse things, but do we need to put a limit on the waiver in which we're granting the waiver of this minimum velocity?
Meaning a minimum of the minimum velocity.
Right.
As to the specific runs,
As to the specific velocity, so that, I didn't know if there was a limit to which we wanted to put on the waiver.
I mean, I guess the intent is anything you can capture is better than nothing.
I guess it's per the current report, subject to review by the borough engineer.
I have no objection.
I mean, we're not granting it to a zero velocity, so
No.
it's, right. So I don't know if the waiver as it's written grants them the autonomy to go to a flat run.
Do you-
I know that's not the intent.
Do you
but-
wanna add to that condition, something along the lines of the minimum velocity per the submitted and approved stormwater management plan?
yes, must be greater than zero.
So are there not already minimums attached to this theory that we're practicing here?
Well,
That's the waiver.
Yeah, that's the thing, so we're saying the minimums that are on the plan, they can go below those minimums, so the point is, well, if we say they can go below the minimums, how low can you go? We're not intending to limbo this to a zero. The point is, if they're requesting that these particular ones, these particular flows, and all of a sudden it comes back and it's going to be lower than that, how much lower are we granting with this? And I think the intention is.
Do you know what the velocities are now?
I do not have the velocities memorized. Perhaps we could say as approved by the borough engineer?
That's how I would.
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah, because I don't remember what the minimum, what the velocity is at the approaching, but they're gonna have to maintain that velocity through those pipes.
Yes.
So, I will amend my motion to include that, as approved by the borough engineer language.
with the velocity that is
Not-
accepted being approved by the borough engineer.
I'll accept that.
Right. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Can you send us, Rob and I, a copy of this?
I'll send you the draft minutes.
Because I wanna be sure he and I both understand what's supposed to be on the plan, so.
Thank you.
On the those, one thing, I think was a typo in your response letter on the amount of the contribution to the maintenance funds. I think the McCarthy letter said 5,000, your response letter said 1,500. I think that was just a typo in your letter. Just wanna make sure you're aware of that.
Okay, thank you.
One final thing that was not on the agenda, because Rob and I just talked about it today. I had a note as a reminder for myself, the current time extension the developer granted that the borough accepted for this project runs through September 13th, which is the day after the September council meeting. So I was gonna wait until September to bring this up, but he's already provided an additional letter that grants the borough time through December 18th of 2023. Just so this isn't hanging out there, I'm not at all opposed to the planning commission and council acting on it this month instead of next month. We would just need to amend the agenda to do so since it was not part of the agenda.
I make a motion to amend the agenda to add the time extension discussion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Public comment? Public comment?
Comment? No?
Did they give you an idea of when you might get your nephew?
No, that's not like a thing. But,
6 months?
likely be like 2 or 3 months is my best guess, so that's why we,
So well within this.
well, I would hope so. And I think, technically, we have some things to clean up with the building plans and stuff to address some of the comments that, from the conditional use and zoning stuff. We're likely not gonna have that ready by Friday to resubmit for next month's, planning commission agenda anyways. So the hope is that by, we'll be submitting for the October review. We'll come back to you with, complete plans. We'll likely have some feedback from the Conservation District by then. That way, there's a possibility that you could even entertain a conditional plan approval at that point in time, but we'll see how things go. So,
So we need to make a motion to recommend accepting the, extension. I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any comment back there? Mr. Baker? Motion carried. Anything else?
that's all for me, unless you guys have any questions or comments you want to share.
More things to pop out of the hat?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
I noticed there were 10 ADA units. Is that a borough requirement, or are they doing it
That's,
home?
my guess is voluntarily, unless it's a
Voluntarily.
building code requirement, which it may be,
I don't know, does he have ADA removable?
meaning ADA access.
ADA spaces
Yeah,
under,
they were on that revised parking plan, yes.
it's all based on the number of parking spaces.
Yeah. Okay.
So whatever number you have, that's how many you need to provide.
Good. One thing they have to show me yet is the arrangement of the parking underground. They haven't provided, they provided me with some early on sketches, okay? But I just want to make sure that those ADA spaces are conveniently located to the elevators and that they meet the minimum ADA size, okay? Because they underground spaces tend to get a lot smaller, okay?
Yeah.
But the ADA spaces still have to meet ADA requirements.
I'm glad he moved the loading area. That really bothered me having it in front of the building. I just didn't think it was gonna work. So, yeah.
You know if there's a PNGI for the site?
They did do that.
Yeah, they have a PNDI, they submit it with the planning module, I believe.
They have a long ear bat.
They also submit it with
No
that.
bog turtles, but the latest is the long ear bat.
Long-eared cat?
Yeah, you can't cut trees.
New, something,
Well, there's a red-bellied cooter.
that might be what I'm thinking about.
None of the groundhogs are gonna count to live in this tree? No.
Yeah, there's,
There's no
Yeah.
impact. Which is not a big enough space for trees.
Good.
Yeah, anything other than the large rodents.
No arrowheads,
Yeah.
no nothing.
Good.
Yeah, so they're clean.
I found it curious that there was some soil issue that came up. Is there fill in that, on that site?
I'm sorry?
Geotech issues?
There was something
Soil.
about some soil issue that came up in the review letter, and that led me to believe there's fill on site there? Was that-
Yeah, from what I understand, there is the geotechnical report identifies some issues but they also suggested remedies for that, okay? I'm gonna wanna see what they do with retaining walls, that's gonna be important, especially considering you're parking right up against them.
That was gonna be one of my questions. Is there a space between,
Not really.
right,
The
so,
front, no. And they didn't even show bumper blocks.
I was gonna say, if they move the wall up higher, they're gonna need bumper blocks.
Yeah, definitely. And, I also along the drive aisle, the drive aisle just is right on top, right next to the retaining wall. So, yeah, the neighbor may be getting a lot more than additional runoff.
I'm with you on the sight distance, though. I drove that myself, and I thought, yeah, that's a pretty good slope going up there.
Yeah,
And then suddenly you hit that driveway. Wow.
yeah. I know.
Fix it now, but you can't fix it after you build it.
There'd be a few rear end crashes there, I think.
It'll be an interesting project when it's done.
What's that? I don't know. Any old business? Any new business? Okay, that's it. We adjourn.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We don't like discussion going on. I don't want Rama to give different.
All right.
opinions.